I'm Azaria Tagaya and this is Nightline, the top stories. Labour Recalibration Programme 2.0 extended to Maids. And Malaysia's trade exceeds 2 trillion ringgit for second consecutive year. Good morning. Highway users nationwide will enjoy toll exemptions on January 20th and 21st in conjunction with the Chinese New Year. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, who announced this at a press conference on Wednesday, said the toll-free rides will involve all classes of vehicles.
Jadi untuk itu, Menteri Kejaran Raya dan Menteri Pengangkutan telah mengambil inisiatif berbincang dengan syarikat konsesi dan setuju supaya ditiadakan tol bagi 20 dan 21 hari bulan. Jadi lepas itu tolong bayar. Baik. Jadi untuk mengedarkan kena ramai yang akan pulang ke kampung, bukan saja Cina tetapi juga Melayu, India, semua yang lain akan bersama-sama.
He said the waivers would ease the burden of those returning to their hometowns and would involve an allocation of 40 million ringgit. The Prime Minister also issued a reminder for the people to be careful on the road, to follow the rules and avoid accidents. Earlier, Datuk Seri Anwar chaired a cabinet meeting at Perdana Putra. Recently, Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi said that around 3.8 million vehicles were expected to use the highways nationwide starting this weekend. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar has instructed cabinet members to take seriously and scrutinise all remarks made in the Auditor General's Report 2021 on the expenses, leakages and matters of non-compliance with conditions and regulations involving their respective ministries. In a press conference after chairing the cabinet meeting, the Prime Minister said the meeting had examined the report but decided not to disclose it in order to give space to the relevant agencies under the ministries to respond.
Kita mengambil masa agak panjang juga untuk meneliti laporan Ketua Audit Negara. Ketua Audit Negara ini selalunya mengeluarkan laporan ini untuk tahun 2021. Tetapi harus ada pengajaran dan saya minta menteri-menteri dalam mesyuarat pos kabinet teliti semula teguran-teguran dibuat soal perbelanjaan, soal ketirisan, soal tidak menepati syarat-syarat dan peraturan. Ini disebut teliti dan saya percaya mereka akan umumkan pada waktu yang sesuai dan akan dibentangkan di sidang parlimen yang akan datang.
Datuk Seri Anwar said the audit report refers to some specific instances and problems and does not necessarily refer to corruption. This is because the matter is not within their field of competence, but rather the objective of carrying out the audit is to identify problems that may exist. He said it was the task of each ministry to look at the audit report and call for agencies concerned to provide explanations and to determine if further action needs to be taken or reports need to be lodged. The Cabinet meeting on Wednesday has decided that a Children's Commissioner will be appointed to the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Suhakam, with immediate effect. The move is part of efforts to tackle child abuse and other social problems affecting children.
Jadi dia ada satu cabang khas yang autonomous di bawah Suhakam kerana terlalu banyak masalah pelecehan dan juga penderaan dan masalah sosial terkait dengan kanak-kanak. Kita juga telah minta supaya Timbalan Perdana Menteri Tun Sri Zahid mempengerusikan jawatankuasa sosial untuk meneliti semua masalah yang terkait juga di bawah penyelenggaraan Datuk Nancy Shukri.
Datuk Seri Anwar also said he had asked Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi to chair a social committee to study problems involving children and issues which come under the jurisdiction of Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri. The Minister's Office of the Prime Minister's Department, Law and Institutional Reform, had earlier said the government was committed to establishing a Children's Commission as an independent body to monitor and protect the rights of children in Malaysia. The Labour Recalibration Programme, or RTK 2.0, to legalise foreign workers, including domestic helpers, will begin on January 27th. Immigration Department Director General Datuk Sri Khairul Zaimi Daud said interested employers may start applying for appointments via the department's website, and the entire process should be finalised within 3 weeks of the appointment. During a briefing on RTK 2.0 on Wednesday, Datuk Sri Khairul Zaimi explained that the programme has been extended to include domestic helpers or maids. This means that the undocumented migrants can be regularised to be hired in a total of 8 sectors. The other 7 industries are manufacturing, construction, mining and quarrying, security guards, services, agriculture and plantations.
Recap lebih murah berbanding dengan kalau bawa masuk pekerja daripada negara sumber. Kerana daripada negara sumber terdapat banyak bayaran yang perlu dibuat, khususnya kepada ejen, kepada ejen-ejen yang membawa masuk pekerja asing ini, yang mana jumlah bayaran yang dikenakan oleh ejen ini di luar kawalan pihak immigration ataupun pihak kerajaan.
He said employers must accompany their illegal foreign workers who qualify for RTK 2.0 along with the relevant documents to the Immigration Department on the given date. The verification process itself should be finished within the day itself, depending on the number of applications. The recalibration fee for each foreign worker is 1,500 ringgit across all sectors. He also stressed that the Immigration Department has never appointed any individual or agency as an agent or middleman for the programme. Meanwhile, the Association of Employment Agencies, PAPA, has welcomed the move by the government to legalise foreign workers, including domestic helpers. Its president, Datuk Fu Yong Hoi, said the involvement of domestic helpers should have been included long before the recalibration programme was introduced.
So, as for the domestic worker, we feel that those who have hired it, they should come forward and regularize them. And then as to the fees, I think there's a fair amount of fees that we could collect from the employer. So we hope that the process will be simplified, and that the government have to come up with a very clear cut-off point as to when the maid can be regularized. That means a deadline. So for instance, if they come in by December 31st or any date later, then the announcement should not be entertained. Okay? So otherwise, it will encourage the legitimate domestic worker to run away from their employer.
Malaysia's trade performance for the year 2022 registered its fastest growth since 1994. International Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz said trade also surpassed the 2 trillion ringgit mark for the second consecutive year.
This was driven by robust external demand and better commodity prices, despite tightened global supply chains and other market challenges.
Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul said that the 12th Malaysia Plan 12 MP projection for 2025 had been exceeded by 24% with 3 years to go, as exports had reached 1.522 trillion ringgit. He added that the country had posted a trade surplus for the 25th consecutive year since 1998. Singapore, Thailand and Indonesia were the top export destinations last year, accounting for 78.3% of the country's total exports to ASEAN countries, which make up 27.1% of Malaysia's total trade in 2022. Meanwhile, China remained as Malaysia's largest trading partner for the 14th consecutive year, with a 17.1% share of the country's total trade, an expansion of 15.6% to 487.13 billion ringgit compared to 2021. The United States was Malaysia's third largest trading partner, making up 9.4% of Malaysia's total trade in 2022, a figure that has grown by 23.3% to 267 27.59 billion ringgit compared to the year before. He also said exports to the European Union (EU) also registered its highest value thus far. Besides that, significant growth was recorded in the exports to emerging markets such as Egypt, Sri Lanka, Mozambique, Papua New Guinea, Togo, Djibouti and Afghanistan. Dato Sri Tengku Zafrul also commented on Malaysia's trade outlook for this year, saying that the country's performance is expected to grow at a softer pace, in line with views by the World Trade Organization, which forecasts global trade to grow by 1%. Despite the challenging global landscape, he said the government will continue to enhance the promotion of international trade and exports to reinforce business resilience and sustain economic growth momentum. The mechanism for controlling prices of goods and ceiling prices will be re-evaluated and may be lifted soon. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said that the supply of eggs is expected to return to normal in 3 months' time.
Hanya menunggu masa saja untuk harga shilling ini diangkat balik. Dan kita akan, kerana ia telah dilakukan terlalu lama, hampir setahun lebih. Jadi sudah masanya kerajaan mengangkat kembali harga shilling ini, hanya menunggu ianya diputuskan nanti oleh kabinet sendiri.
Recently, the Federation of Malaysian Retailers Association had urged the government to re-evaluate the price control mechanism as it is deemed to be out of date, saying it had led to the short supply of controlled goods such as eggs, sugar and cooking oil in the market. Plans are currently underway to make public transportation free for persons with disabilities. Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Sri Nancy Shukri said that Transport Minister Anthony Loke had agreed to the matter in principle. In a post on Twitter, Datuk Sri Nancy said that she and Loke had discussed the matter just before the weekly cabinet meeting on Wednesday morning. She said the initial discussions concerns waiving fares for disabled people who use public transportation such as the light rail transit, mass rapid transit and stage buses. She added that Loke had been agreeable on the matter and that efforts will now be focused on the best mechanisms to employ in order to implement the matter.
Saya sarankan, saya sudah cakap dalam bernama, saya sarankan supaya bagi free lah kepada OKU untuk naik LRT, MRT, stage bus. Jadi dia kata, boleh, dia kata tinggal dia kena tengok mekanisme dia. Mungkin dari segi memberi kad ke apa, dia akan tengok. Tapi secara prinsip dia bersetuju.
Previously, Prasarana Malaysia Berhad reported that the average number of persons with disabilities using bus and rail services monthly was more than 26,000 users per month, and currently OKU cardholders only enjoy a 50% discount for all public transportation. On another matter, Datuk Sri Nancy revealed that the Welfare Department had handled a total of 5,572 cases of child abuse and neglect nationwide from January to November last year. She said the cases involved physical, sexual and emotional abuse, as well as cases of neglect. Speaking to the media after launching the Child Services Maintenance and Protection 2023 Town Hall session in Putrajaya on Wednesday, Datuk Sri Nancy said the cases were handled by welfare officers who were tasked to protect the kids under the Child Act. She said the ministry is always monitoring the situation to ensure the safety of children, as well as working together with the police and the relevant ministries. She also expressed hope to increase the recruitment of protection officers to handle child-related cases in the country, adding that the ministry currently has 13,000 openings for such officers based on the previously approved headcount.
Sebenarnya itu ini adalah satu proses berterusan. Kita memang diluluskan untuk mendapat 18,000 memang 18,000, tapi sekat ini cuma berada dalam 5,000 lebih. Jadi kita akan berterusan akan merekrutkan lagi dan mereka perlu kita kita tempatkan di tempat-tempat di seluruh negara.
During her address at the town hall session, Datuk Sri Nancy also called on all JKM officers as well as ministry staff to constantly monitor child-related issues that are highlighted on social media. Ukrainian minister among 14 killed in chopper crash. News from the foreign front when we return. Nightline continues with news from the foreign front. In Ukraine, at least 14 people, including Ukraine's interior minister, were killed in a helicopter crash near a kindergarten in the town of Brovary. The helicopter, which was carrying top officials, slammed down next to the kindergarten and a residential building in the city, killing Ukrainian interior minister Denis Monastrinsky and his first deputy Yevgeny Yenin. The Kiev region governor Oleksiy Kuleba put the latest death toll from the accident at 18 people, including 3 children. It was reported that 9 people on board the aircraft have all died, while the other casualties were locals bringing their children to the kindergarten. Authorities said 29 others were wounded in the incident, including 15 children, adding that rescue operations were ongoing at the site. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in the meantime, called the crash a terrible tragedy and ordered the Ukrainian security services to find out all the circumstances. In another development, rescue teams recovered 5 out of 6 bodies found in Thailand's Mekong River, bringing the confirmed death toll in the oil tanker fire and explosion to 8, while another remained missing. Authorities said dozens of rescue workers, including divers equipped with underwater scanners and jet skiers, resumed the search on Wednesday within a 100-meter radius of the oil tanker, which caught fire and exploded on Tuesday morning in the Ruam Mitre dockyard in Muang district of Samut Songkhram province. It was reported that all of the victims are of Myanmar nationals who were working at the dockyard when the incident occurred. Rescue works, however, were made difficult as divers had to exercise extreme caution due to the amount of steel debris from the tanker under the water. In the meantime, officials said a panel will be set up to find out how the explosion occurred and whether safety measures were strictly applied when the vessel was being cleaned, adding that results of the probe is expected within 10 days. An offshore earthquake with a magnitude of 7 struck off Indonesia's Sulawesi island on Wednesday, prompting panicked residents to flee buildings and briefly triggering a tsunami warning. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the epicenter of the tremor was located 150 kilometers northwest of the eastern Indonesian island of Halmahera at the depth of 48 kilometers. The undersea quake, which occurred around 1 p.m. local time, also reported 10 aftershocks. There were no immediate reports of casualties, but light damage was reported on at least 1 island. The US-based Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, in an updated warning, also stated the tsunami threat had passed. Indonesia rests atop the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, making it one of the most seismically active regions in the world, experiencing frequent earthquakes. The Provincial Assembly in Pakistan's northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was dissolved on Wednesday, the second regional government to be brought down by former Prime Minister Imran Khan in his drive to force early general elections. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Governor Haji Ghulam Ali signed a letter dissolving the assembly on Wednesday at the request of the provincial chief minister, who is a senior figure in Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party. The move in the province came after the assembly in Punjab was dissolved late on Saturday by Khan's coalition partners on his orders. As per the constitution, fresh elections in both the legislatures must be held inside 3 months. General elections are due no later than mid-October, and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government is holding out hope of engineering an economic turnaround to boost its faltering popularity. Pakistan has been gripped by political turmoil since Khan was ousted in a no-confidence vote last April.
Moving on to sports now. Tennis. Defending champion Rafael Nadal bowed out of the Australian Open on Wednesday after injuring his left hip and losing to Mackenzie McDonald 6-4, 6-4, 7-5 in the second round, abruptly ending his bid for a record-extending 23rd Grand Slam trophy. Nadal's elimination shakes up the men's draw and puts a twist in the Grand Slam titles race, with nine-time champion Novak Djokovic able to draw level with the Spaniard's 22 major championships should he take a 10th crown at Melbourne Park.
An under-par Nadal lost the first set and was trailing in the second when he pulled up awkwardly at the end of a point at 3-4 against the 65th ranked American. The top seed was visited by a trainer on the sidelines, then left the court for a medical timeout. Although Nadal was determined to complete the match, it was clear that the great champion was physically compromised and his dreams of defending the title slipped away.
I have been a couple of days like this, but nothing like today in that movement. So I don't know. We're gonna start talking about that, but I don't know what's going on. If it's muscle, if it's joint. I have a history in the hip that had issues. I had to do treatments in the past recently too, but was not this amount of problem. Now I feel that I cannot move.
This is Nadal's earliest exit at any Grand Slam tournament since bowing out in the first round in Melbourne in 2016 against fellow Spaniard Fernando Verdasco. In the meantime, Iga Swiatek, a hot favourite for the women's title, and men's dark horse Jannik Sinner swept into the third round of the Australian Open before 9 first-round matches were started as the weather continued to wreak havoc at Melbourne Park on Wednesday. World number 1 Swiatek overcame Camila Osorio 6-2, 6-3 under the roof on Rod Laver Arena, and Italian Sinner waltzed past Thomas Etcheverry 6-3, 6-2, 6-2 on the similarly protected John Cain Arena. Sinner, who has reached the quarterfinals of all 4 Grand Slams but has never gotten any further, could hardly have shown better form as he briskly dismissed Argentine Etcheverry. Strong and aggressive, the 21-year-old fired 32 winners and converted all 5 of his break points in an hour and 44 minutes. Meanwhile, Coco Gauff battled past Emma Raducanu 6-3, 7-6 on Wednesday to reach the third round of the Australian Open, but not before the true prodigies offered fans a good glimpse of what the future of women's tennis could look like after an absorbing first clash. A lot is expected of French Open runner-up Gauff, who at 18 is 2 years younger than Raducanu, but has not tasted the Grand Slam success the Briton did as a teenager.
Ministry Division Director among 3 held for graft. This and more after this short break. Staying with us on Nightline, a director of a division within a ministry who has a Datuk title was among 3 individuals who were arrested for allegedly accepting large amounts of monthly bribes from contractors who were awarded projects by the ministry. The other 2 arrested were a project consultant and a director of a construction firm.
All three suspects are in their 40s. They were arrested on Tuesday after being summoned by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission for their statements to be recorded. According to sources, the payments were from contractors who the suspects had helped to expedite claim payments, helped obtain approval for variation orders, and to obtain extensions of time for their projects. A source said that the division director, aside from receiving monthly payments, was also presented with expensive and luxury items for his personal use. Magistrate Irza Zulaika Rohanuddin allowed for the director to be remanded for 7 days, while the other two will be held for 3 days beginning Wednesday. The case is being investigated under Section 17, subsection A of the MACC Act.
In Johor, a couple trying to avoid inspection led police on a 130-kilometre high-speed chase before being nabbed early on Wednesday morning. Johor Bahru Selatan, JBS District Police Chief ACP Raup Slamat said in the 11:30 p.m. incident, police personnel on patrol spotted a 20-year-old man and an 18-year-old woman who were in a parked car at the Ada Height Recreation Centre behaving suspiciously.
He said when police approached the vehicle, the suspects immediately reversed the car and crashed into a police multipurpose vehicle MPV before speeding off, with the authorities in hot pursuit. A total of 6 MPVs from the JBS Police Headquarters IPD and 4 MPVs from the Johor Bahru Utara IPD also assisted in the chase, which ended at kilometre 76.6 of the Johor Bahru Air Itam Highway, where the couple was arrested. Preliminary investigations revealed that the couple is believed to have fled because they were surprised when the police vehicle approached. A background check found that they had no prior offences. Police then confiscated their car along with 168 ringgit in cash, and the duo has been remanded for 4 days until Saturday to assist with investigations under the Penal Code as well as the Road Transport Act. Earlier, a 1-minute and 15-second video clip had gone viral on Facebook depicting the incident involving several police cars in hot pursuit of a Proton persona in Jalan Skudai, Johor.
A Thai court has ordered for wanted Malaysian businessman Teddy Tiao Woi Huat to be extradited to China to face charges in connection with fraud, though Malaysia too had filed an extradition request. The court said Tiao, MBI Group's founder, can file an appeal within 30 days.
The verdict was delivered via a virtual hearing on Wednesday. Earlier, the court said Chinese authorities had filed a request to extradite Tiao to China for fraud and dubious investment schemes. The court also noted that Tiao is also on the Interpol Red Notice list for questioning. Meanwhile, Tiao's counsel, Juti Suanraksa, said Tiao will be filing an appeal on the extradition order to China. Besides that, he said the counsel team is preparing necessary documents to be submitted to the court on Malaysia's extradition request. Tiao was detained on July 21st last year and was informed that he was wanted by authorities in China for duping investors with his dubious investment schemes.
As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look at drone footage of snow powdering trees in Belgium as cold conditions continue to grip most parts of the country. Trees and fields in the country's highest peak, the Signal de Bottange, were all dusted in white snow as temperatures were set to stick below freezing overnight on Tuesday to Wednesday. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and take care.